Chief, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Phil is downstairs at a trustee of trust fund doing business with them. He will be up as soon as that meeting's over. We're going to start the meeting with Fire Chief Graham Pellerin. Bring us up to date. For those that don't know, last night was the first night Kingston had 24-hour coverage. And he's been working behind the scenes trying to get that going. So here's an update today.
Yeah, so I just wanted to update you guys. Sean Toomey from the Fire Marshal's office was down last Friday, a week ago, this past Friday. Went through the station, noted some things, the lack of sprinklers, some other things that would need to be fixed if this was a long-term solution to our staffing issues. Excuse me. But noting that we're hopefully going for a new building, that it shouldn't be an issue to get a letter from, and he said he was going to prepare a letter for the Selectmen and myself stating that, long-term goals of, 2, 3, 4, years, months, whatever, that we could continue or start the 24-hour coverage, which we did on Sunday. Still taking applications. I've interviewed 8 candidates so far, 4 per diem. So you're getting their paperwork back in and moving forward with that. So hopefully as of yesterday, the town of Kingston will have 24/7 coverage. Other than that, that's really the only update I have.
What was the what's the time now? Is it still 6 o'clock in the morning, or what's the
Shift change?
Yeah.
So shift change is at 8 a.m. I did that so that my normal schedule is 7, starting at 7. So I wanted to be able to talk to and get any reports from the off-going shift as well as the oncoming shift, and be there for both shift changes. So
that's actually smart.
I appreciate that.
And actually, I happened to be there the other day on Sunday and met one of the per diem guys who works at the Naval Shipyard or something, and seemed to have his stuff together. Yep,
so he's full-time there. We have a past member that moved up north about an hour away, but he wants to come back and work the 24-hour shifts. We have people that work in Newington Fire that are interested, Derry Fire. So I think we're going to get a lot of qualified candidates through the door, and hopefully, keep working to improve the service for Kingston.
Any other issues over the?
Nope, we I talked to you last week about one of the trucks that failed pump testing. We just got it back today. I haven't had a chance to look at the invoice. But other than that, everything's status quo.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
Anyone have any questions for Graham?
No, I was working with him on the fire station thing with the fire marshal, so I was in the loop.
Did we get the letter yet?
I called him Friday afternoon. I haven't heard back. I'll give. I called Sean Toomey. I'll call Fire Marshal Parisi tomorrow. They were busy with that double fatal fire in Northampton, so.
Yeah, sure. All right. No one else has any questions?
No.
I guess, how do we set up for 6:30?
I believe the fire
building committee
station.
wanted to go as well.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize they were on there, okay. If the building committee wants to come up and talk.
Did you have a PO for SMP for $3,600?
Maybe. Did anyone?
I don't remember that.
That would be the two 1,800 for presentations. I know we talked about it somewhere along there.
You can delete that.
Okay.
It's included in the 24,000.
I can talk to Cindy tomorrow and take it out.
Which one was it?
SMP for $3,600.
Yeah, it was a contract, and originally when you came forward, you asked for 4,500 or 26. And then it separated that 1,800, but we approved the 26 that you asked for, and I guess there was a question on, okay.
I did see the purchase order for the contract. In fact, it's right here.
That's not for the presentations, though.
No,
Yeah.
That's fine, I'll talk
the
to
land,
Steve
that's the
tomorrow, or
land.
take it over.
So there is a contract to be signed, for, sorry. You got doubles there, you were in stereo. There's a contract to be signed for Bowen Corporation, which is the construction management firm that we retained to do the project. So that was printed out a couple weeks ago, but we wanted to give that to Sumner Kalman for review. Really, he came back with a date that was missing. It was just the wrong year. Oversight on the CMs. Other than that, Sumner basically said, do we really need to sign this at this point in time? Well, it's really the purchase order for the CM. So it states the $7,500, but the contract is very specific that if the warrant article does not pass, the contract's kind of voided anyway, because they would rebid it again later. So if you get into the details of the thing, really the liability for Kingston at this point in time, $7,500. And that's for the construction management company to go out, work with their mechanical, plumbing, electrical, roofers, concrete guys to get a biddable, a warrant article price for the layout that we have. We've come down quite a bit as far as the square footage. I think the last meeting that we had, it's at 13,800, now 13,800 square feet. We've cut a lot. We requested that the architect put a 1,000 square foot cellar in for the mechanicals, and then there's like I think it's 250 square foot storage room in the cellar. So they have that. The benefit there, I think that kind of crunches the first floor down, so it's not as big as.
Could
on
I
the
ask
first
then,
floor.
you mentioned cellar.
Yeah.
Would that only be on like the office portion, not on, under the bays, right?
Correct.
The bays will be a slab.
And it's not even.
It's
It,
pretty small.
yeah, it might be a quarter of the admin.
Okay.
All right, so it's a pretty small, as far as the total square footage of the admin, it's 1,000 square feet. So we just wanted electrical, like the riser pump, the sprinkler, and all the different mechanicals downstairs. So that was, Sumner basically came back with a date change, so that was redone. Primex came back with a laundry list of things. Some of those.
They're good that way.
Yeah. I think it's realistic to assume the town of Kingston won't assume that we will have some liability, right? I mean, you're not going to build a building without any liability. And she was very good at suggesting, hey, these are recommendations and suggestions if you can get them through. So we do have a few. The Bowen has already, in what you will sign, Article 8, page 15, they will buy a builder's risk policy, purchased by them, but charged to the project. But basically, that's it definitely will limit or mitigate the liability to us, so they will have a contractor policy in there as well.
You said on the new contract?
The one that you will sign is already edited.
So page 15, what clause?
You're looking probably at the contrary. You need to go to the general terms. I don't know if that got printed out or not.
I'm on page 15, and there's all different subsections.
Right, but are you on page 15 of A20? You're probably on the, what is the first document number?
A133?
Yeah, that's, A133 references all the general conditions. 201, 2007 is a whole different document. That really,
Is that, I'm looking at page 3, it's commercial general liability, commercial umbrella?
no, you're on you're on the actual contract. There's a separate document, 201, 207, which is general conditions
Okay.
of contract. The problem we're having, both Primex and Sumner, we're not even there. Like, we're not building anything.
Yeah.
We're so ahead of this contract. The only thing that we're signing for right now is $7,500 to get us a warrant article price. They're looking at stuff when machinery, when we dig up pollution, and I spoke with Jeff at CM, at Bowen, and he says, listen, we're working with Exeter right now, we're on month 4. I guess they're building a library.
Okay, if they're doing in
And
addition.
Bowen he's the CM. So they've been going back and forth for about 4 months. So he goes, we can edit this thing as long as you want. But you need to understand that these documents that you're going back and forth on, we're not even there. The only thing we want is $7,500, which will take us through to the March vote. That's it.
And the escape clause.
And the escape clause.
So we don't need to sign this, is what you're saying?
You need to sign that one. You don't need to sign the one that Primex has pollution, machinery liability. We're just not there yet. And he says, don't sign this one yet, just sign that one for the $7,500.
Okay.
But they have already added a builder's risk policy, a pollution insurance coverage policy. Now we need to be cognizant if we dig that up and there is pollution in the soil. That's not on Bowen or the contractor, that's on the town of Kingston, right? So, if they cause the pollution, that's different. That's what they're saying. If, whatever, the excavator dumps 100 gallons of oil, they'll clean that up. So that's part of the 2 policies that's in there. Primex was very nice to pretty much X out anything about mediation. They want to go right to litigation, and in the document, Bowen just says, no, our lawyers will it's not going to happen. So this is a standard construction contract. Just for reference, we signed this for the library, the exact same document. I don't know who signed it, but the town of Kingston has already entered into this contract when we built the library with the same company, Bowen. They were the CM for the library, so I don't think we made.
Did that on their own.
Yeah, I think they did. And
Well, they would be because they're trustees, but I'm just curious, I'm looking at the contract real quick, and I don't see anywhere in here where it says $7,500.
yeah,
It's section
it's
4
there.
or something. I think. Art that Sumner looked at, that he wanted to make sure there was another added
Say
line.
page 4.
Article
Section
4,
4, Article 4. Yeah.
4,500, all right, okay, for the service fee, vote 7,500, the town of Kingston is not liable for any fees over 7,500 if the voters do not approve the project. Okay,
So this is basically just pre-construction warrant article money. We can terminate it, they can terminate it. If something happens, the relationship goes south, you need 10 days, I think it was? 7 days to terminate the contract, either side.
That will be for the length of the contract.
Right.
The town's ability to get out of this is pretty good. Town's well protected, I think.
Yep.
They have to perform.
all right.
And they are doing the work now. It's not like they're waiting for this to, they've already met with the architect a couple times, so they've already actually given suggestions back to SMP on the layout that we provided to them. So we're making progress.
Now, you still haven't got to the point where materials yet, whether it's brick, stick, steel,
We're there.
metal roof.
That's coming.
You're still doing that right?
That's part of that 7,500.
Yeah,
Yeah. The building
So-
committee will be meeting, or the design and specification subcommittee will be meeting with Bowen to give that kind of input.
yeah.
So that and some of that will be, well, do you want this or do you want that? And we're gonna say, well, we want pricing for both.
Right.
And then we'll decide.
So initially, so insulated concrete forms, it's a newer, basically you have concrete walls. It's very green. It's efficient as far as air conditioning and heating. We don't know if we can handle the cost adder. It's gonna be a little bit more than, obviously, we need to find that out. from Bowen, so he can price it out in insulated concrete form, steel stud, whatever. So it's gonna be, here are the two numbers, one's gonna be more than the other. Probably ruled out brick. Brick is very expensive. We talked to the architect about a metal roof versus asphalt shingles. You got a nice long time on that, but he's, you know, it's about 8 times the cost. So he'll bring us those numbers. Here's asphalt shingles, here's metal roof. We don't have an elevation yet, so we don't know really what it's gonna look like on the outside. I should have that this week, so we can send that out. The other thing, we haven't, I don't think, solidified it yet, but we wanna do a bigger presentation on November 4th for you and the other committees.
Yeah, we firmed that up.
Okay, so that'll be good. We'll have an elevation then. We should have a little bit more on the construction and from the CM. and
That's the
from
work session that we had
architect.
talked about several weeks ago, will be with the Board of Selectmen. And we're gonna invite other town boards and committees. And we'll have a presentation from our committee as well as SMP and Bowen. And so we can do a little bit deeper dive than what we've done with you up till now.
You said November 4th? Here for Selectmen's meeting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
6 to 7.
Anyone got any questions?
All right.
Appreciate the work you've done.
Okay, thank you.
Puts us a little ahead of schedule. I don't know if you got, we should wait for Phil for that, the contract. Approve that.
I noticed the suggestion of motions for the 21st, the top one. I think we did that last meeting.
We did, but we need you to sign. I don't know if you need to make another motion, but the paperwork's in there to sign.
We signed that. or
Okay, it's part of
us
the
have.
invoice, but it's also the agreement, so,
And that takes 50% each time.
yes. So it's all been decided, but you need to sign it.
I'm gonna wait for, Phil for those, but let's see what else if we can do. Is anyone coming in for appointments?
Heritage is coming at 7.
Yeah, but these people that are signing up, any of these people
Oh, the
coming?
appointments, I think they're gonna wait till next week. I told them either this week or next week. If they come right at 7, it sounds like they're coming next week.
Okay, so we'll hold off on these.
At least the Kingston Days ones, because that's not real imminent anyway.
All right. All right, we'll hold off on those. We're not doing those two. We did get is it one of the motions for, got a bill from Rockingham County for our assessed value. And that amount due is $769,282. It's due Tuesday, December 17th.
Isn't the PO's in there?
It's at the PO's in there, okay.
Yes.
All right. We did send out a notice of violation.
On the motorcycle?
Yep. So that did go out. Just out of curiosity, do we typically, that was signed by Susan, does it usually, you do it or the selectmen sign
I
it?
bring it in, but there was some urgency to
Was
it,
it
so.
ongoing?
Yep, no, I understand, so, okay, no, that's what I wanna check, so, I'm okay with it, but, do we hear anything back, or?
Just received it today.
Okay. All right. So we'll consider that for next week. We just have that motion. And the MS1 sheet, I guess we could all sign that. See, you already did it, but we don't need any motion for that, right? Um, How about if we do the motion for the workman's comp? You guys okay with that?
Yes, I make a motion. That we take Cindy's recommendation.
Second.
And authorize me to sign it?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion on it? I will say I checked with Cindy, I am a little disappointed. This contract is gonna go till December with Primex. And the risk management runs out in July. I don't know why they do that, but I would like the minutes to reflect that we need to go out to package these up
That's,
to be competitive bidding. So it'll have to go out to bid, I would say probably January of 2022. And it would have to be, someone's gonna have to lapse that 6 months anyways, the difference. Any other further comment?
No?
All in favor?
All right. He didn't
Briggs?
hear you.
Aye.
That's unanimous. I'll sign that.
The
Go ahead.
Tito Masonry quote is in there, the bid that we've already approved. You want to sign that?
If you wanna make that motion, did we already approve it?
Motion, yeah, we did it last meeting.
We did award it to them?
Yeah, just the first half, the steps,
Right.
and then the second part was gonna go on the ballot
That's right, yeah.
and delayed, and they were agreeable to doing that.
Okay. So we'll go right to that one.
They were the low bidder.
Yeah, but I thought we also, they were recommended because they,
They were.
it wasn't just because they, yeah.
Just make sure they broke it down on there, but it
Should be just that portion, the steps and front,
just
front steps, correct?
22,000,
yeah. it's the
contract
steps.
heist. Nothing else. Okay.
Should go into masonry business.
I'd suggest, on the code complaint at 11 Wadley, took a quick ride by, I'd suggest we do a site visit on that.
I actually drove by there Sunday myself to take a look at it. It does look like there is it's obviously a neighbor dispute, but I don't know what the resolution is. It looks like to move a shed, they would either have to move it or they have the right to put in to go to the ZBA for a variance, no?
It's not in violation, they just don't like it.
I thought it had to be within 20 feet.
That's 20 feet from your boundary, but it's my understanding it is more than 20 feet from the boundary.
That's why I suggest we do a site visit.
Okay, look, 10 feet. The one all the way in the back? Down by the water?
I'm telling you,
Okay.
the neighbors dispute.
Yep.
It is.
As the land survey, the shed is on the right property within the boundaries, so there was no ZBA issue at this point in time,
Okay.
unless there's other information, but that's my understanding.
All right.
Either that or I can go out, look at it, report back to the board.
I went and looked, I looked at it, I saw the marker up, and yeah, it's obviously a dispute that, I don't know, I mean, that shed's been there for a while. It's,
Yeah.
I don't know what happened there suddenly.
I think it's been
The
there,
house is for sale.
been there 11 years, I think.
The fact that it's been there a long time, it is not a mitigating circumstance. As long as that shed has been in the boundaries of that property and does not require a variance of any kind, there's nothing that the other family can do.
Unless, am I correct, unless it's not the 20 feet from,
That's correct.
Yeah.
And then they can ask them to come to the ZBA, but, they
Is he
need,
living on the water side or the
it's
other
weird,
side?
it's very weird.
right side,
It's,
belongs to the right side.
yeah,
No, but is it next to the water?
It's
they're
somewhat,
both on the water.
yeah.
They're both on the water.
You can either do a site walk, or I can go out and take a look at
If
it.
you, I looked at it, I didn't bring my tape measure.
Let me look at it.
So, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, Miss Alessio, but
We did not have any, this has not come before the zoning board. I got a call from one of the abutters there, asking if that it was a ZBA issue. And they told me that the land had been resurveyed, the shed was not. But what originally was thought of as the boundary was not. So the shed does not violate the 20-foot ruling.
because of what they thought was the boundary?
What became the actual boundary.
Okay.
What they thought was the boundary and what actually is the boundary are two different numbers.
Yeah.
And so they can't make the person who has the shed on their property move it.
Okay.
They couldn't anyways.
Yeah. No, it was, looking at, I didn't speak to anyone over there. I just went by because the letter said the markers were up. So I went and looked at it.
Only because I received the call and that was the information I was given. Given that circumstance, they don't require a variance. As long as they were within their 20-foot limit.
I,
Why don't we let the chief look at it and report back?
yeah, you can do that.
I'll try to swing by there too.
You know, it's 13 and 11. Okay. Well, it's 7 o'clock. So if you want to take the stage for the preservation easement. Although,
Are we not filming tonight?
it's being filmed.
What's that?
It's filmed.
Oh, it is. It looked dark in there. I just had a phone call from Deb Powers, and she's in traffic on 495, but
I thought you said she was getting traffic on Main Street.
no. But on her way, and she did say for us to get started, and hopefully she'll join us in process. So she asked me if I would get us started on this item, knowing that, you know, you allotted a half hour to it. Jelly, please.
I don't have the materials, so
Oh, well, that's okay.
I'm just,
Well,
I'm backup.
do you want a set of material? Because there
I
is a
have,
set of material.
no, I have it at home.
Oh, okay.
I have it at home.
There's some in the back if you
I'm
want.
just muscle.
That's right. Actually, you're batting cleanup.
That's true.
And you're the muscle.
That's true.
Yes.
So, this is brought forward by the Heritage Commission.
It's actually being brought forth by the Envision Kingston 2 Subcommittee of the Heritage Commission.
Okay, very good.
And it's regarding RSA 79E,
Yep.
which is something that a community can adopt as a way to provide incentives for redevelopment of village centers and downtown areas primarily. We can walk through the PowerPoint. We can do it very quickly, just as a refresher. It's essentially the same presentation that we did at deliberative session last year when we brought it forth as a citizens petition. At that point in time, it did not have selectmen or budget committee support, but it came pretty close. It actually garnered a lot of voter support. So, and even without the support of the boards, it had a very good response at the polls. So,
Wow, she must have broke some speed signs if she made it from 495.
wow. So, well, I just started, but pull up a chair. Pull up a chair. You want me to keep?
He's doing a good job.
Kick
Go
her
right
ass.
ahead.
Okay. So we do have members of this subcommittee with us, and Deb Powers, who's also the chair of the Heritage Commission, is the head of the subcommittee. Ellie Alessio is here, and she's also the chair of the Zoning Board of Adjustment and the chair of the Board of Trust, School Board.
No,
Not chair, but
no, not chair.
No,
But I'm really.
but you're on the
running
school
things,
board.
yeah.
Okay.
I wear a lot of hats, but I'm really representing my tax bill here tonight.
Okay. I'm Glenn Koppelman. I sit on Planning Board. I'm also the Planning Board's rep to Historic District Commission. I sit on the subcommittee, and then we have Ernie Landry, the vice chair of Heritage Commission. He's on the subcommittee, and Virginia Morse, who's the chair of the Historic District Commission, and she's on the committee. And there are a few other people as well who, and Glenn Greenwood, our town planner, is on the committee as well, the subcommittee. So, I'm happy to walk through the PowerPoint. What I don't want to do, I don't think we want to be taking your time unnecessarily, but we did provide the PowerPoint. We can walk through it quickly if you'd like.
we have till like 8:15 before kickoff, so.
That doesn't mean we have to be here.
Okay, let's,
What I would look at the second one, the third page, and it's the revitalizing area, and it's Historic District 1. I know one of the concerns at the time was just that you're just leaving it at HDC 1. Did you look at it all at the other historic districts? There's down at Cheney Mill, there's on Little River Road.
We did look at them, and we thought that we would start with just the HD1, and if the program is working, that we could, go back and extend it. Where, as you probably know, right now, two of our primary concerns are the country store and the seminary building. So that was our thought, is by doing HD1, that, we'll see if this works. There are a lot of historic buildings in HD2, obviously, but we're thinking that something that would fit this application, we'd find right now in HD1.
the other thing to consider is that the legislation is primarily designed for providing a shot in the arm to sort of village centers and areas that are more commercially oriented, and HD1 has that characteristic, whereas HD2 is primarily all residential, and some of the other areas that could be considered as historic centers might have had some commerce in the past, like Cheney Mill for lumbering and milling and so forth. But if you look at the intent and purpose and target audience, if you will, of the legislation, RSA 79E, it really is focused on village centers, and we felt that HD1 fit that category, and if at some point in the future the town thought that it would be worth adding other areas, we could certainly do that.
Would it take a town vote for that to happen? Okay.
Yep.
I think you're gonna find in the next 2 years that someone's gonna be interested in probably purchasing that seminary property.
Well, there is interest now, and there is a proposal being put together to the school district. I don't know for a fact that they're looking for 79E relief on future taxes, but I would bet that is the case. And the developer, has asked to be anonymous for now, that's why I'm not saying the name, but very, very respectable and resourceful. So he's gonna know a lot more than some of us will know about how 79E works. But it's looking good, and that would be an awesome opportunity to if we needed to defer some taxes or tax credits, this is the time to do it. In that particular situation with the seminary, we've never had any tax dollars derived from that property. So even if, in your infinite wisdom, it'd be up to the selectmen to make that offer, if you will, and that, obviously with the school board, but even if we had to defer taxes for a while, they're gonna have to put at least $3.5 million into
Right.
that building.
Yeah.
That's without taking off a windowsill to see what's behind it.
But we're still paying maintenance and oil too, so it's a cost to the community.
Yeah, but it's more an untapped resource. Because even if there's tax credits assigned to that property, it's gonna generate ancillary jobs and services within the town. It's gonna create more jobs than we have going right now. It all fits in. And if those of you that participated in the Envision Kingston proposal, this fits in so perfectly. The country store is another example of opportunity to fix it up, if you will. Although I have to say that gal Heidi, Down to Earth, has done a fabulous job in decorating that whole building complex, never mind the island in the middle of town and down the street over to Rick's. I mean, but some people it should be incentivized and given a little more oomph in order to take the project to the next level. And so if we have 79E, and it will help, and your endorsement is huge. People in the community trust the budget committee and the selectmen. If they see that you're behind a proposal, they tend to vote for it, whether they understand what it is or not. And since we came so close last year, can you imagine if we had the stamp of approval from this office? It would really help tremendously. That doesn't mean you're gonna be writing out blank checks to anyone that comes across. That's not the case. We're looking to enhance and preserve historic buildings by also generating some tax revenue for the community in the long run and some jobs accordingly. You know, it's one of the beautiful things about Kingston is that we are so pristine in many ways, and this is a way to maintain it and maybe generate some long-term revenue.
And just mention what she said about the taxes. One thing is if this passes, we're gonna have to look at the assessment of the taxes on that building and land, because the assessment is very high now.
Right, but we'll never sell it for that.
Right.
And you look
I
at
mean, and that's my point, is that it's gonna have to be brought down so it would give an incentive to a buyer.
Right. And if you look at the,
Which one's that?
The seminary.
Seminary and science building.
and if you remember, well, not all of you were on the, I don't think any of you were on the board when you got the appraisals. We had 2 appraisals done on the seminary building, and one came in high of 1.7 million of that entire property, Chase Field, gym and all, and the science building, and the other came in about $700,000 or $800,000. So the assessment of today's current value is not what's on the books.
Right.
Not even close. Not even close.
And they don't really care what's on the books now because they don't pay taxes anyway.
That's correct.
So,
I think, based upon the knowledge I have, that the individual will be looking for a tax break. And I think that if it's the individual that's going to purchase that, it'll be a win-win for the town.
Oh, no question about it.
Absolutely.
No question
It'll be
about it.
something that will be very shocking to the town if this individual purchases it.
And the Envision Kingston proposal was awesome in terms of developing the community in the long term. I know we were talking a 20, 25-year vision, and that would become more like Wolfboro, where we'd become a destination weekend place. We've got a beautiful common area. We have at least half a dozen walking trails throughout the community. We have a number of historic buildings, never mind the Josiah Bartlett House. All those fit into a plan of a forethought of making the community a place for people to come and spend a weekend.
Got a vision, Wolfboro, that
this is,
was a nice vision, Wolfboro.
Well,
When do we
that's
start
what
building the waterfront?
Well, we have a beautiful lake. Now, we're gonna have to get a Friends of Kingston Lake going, but that's another project. We're not there yet.
this is one of the groups I've been sitting in on, and, I mean, to me, the whole thing is a no-brainer. It's, basically a very good tax incentive. I don't remember the guy's name, but the guy from Exeter that came in,
Darren Wynnum.
he was very good explaining the different aspects of it and what they've done right and wrong, and
And
clarifying
they
a lot of
passed
stuff.
79E in Exeter. There's probably 4 or 5 towns in our area.
Well, and there's a slide in here that talks about them. There's a bunch of them in the state, and there's a half a dozen or so within the seacoast area. And the one that's closest to us that has actually used 79E is the town of Exeter. And the project that you might be familiar with is the conversion of the old Loaf and Ladle building to the Sea Dog restaurant. And they consider that one of their real successes with 79E, because the small amount, relatively small amount, compared to the investment in the rehab work, the relatively small amount of tax benefit that the developer received made the difference in getting that project done or not. And that's really the bottom line here, is that it's not, first of all, it's not really a tax giveaway. It's deferring a little bit of the taxes on the improved project. You're still generating tax revenue. It's just that you're deferring the incremental tax, the adjusted upward tax revenue assessment.
Just for the,
Until the
relatively quick historic perspective to my fellow board member, when you say it's a no-brainer, it could be, but last time, no disrespect to anyone, it came up the last minute.
Right.
And we just went through litigation for someone's idea of preservation versus the town's idea of preservation.
And that's all right, because it came before the voters anyway, so when we go again this year, it won't be brand new. And we tend to need a
Correct.
couple of votes sometimes.
Yeah.
Until we're comfortable with the concept and understand what's being asked of the voters.
Education is always a good thing. and,
Absolutely.
You know,
And the committee recognizes the fact that when we brought it to the select board last year, it was very late in the process, and we didn't have a lot of the answers to questions, and you know, we realized full well why you chose not to support it.
Yeah.
And in the year since then, we've done a lot of work,
A lot of fine tuning.
a lot of fine tuning. You've had a selectman representative sitting on the committee, and I think that that has been good and valuable, and hopefully, you know, he's been bringing back information to you guys.
and here you are in October, 6 months before town vote, so.
And to be honest, as Ellie indicated, you know, what we would hope for this year is that based on the fairly high level of support from a non-supported citizens petition last year to where we are today, that the selectmen will feel comfortable bringing it forth as a warrant article from the selectmen on the 2020 warrant. That is our hope.
Anyone have any questions?
Would you like to walk through this or answer any?
We can send you
Good,
electronic
I've been
version.
flipping
Oh,
through
we
and I
have.
asked my
Okay.
questions, but I don't know if anyone else has any questions.
No, I can tell you that this will certainly help that project when it comes to fruition at the old seminary. I can tell you it's definitely a win-win for the town,
You know,
definitely.
when a reputable developer like the one who's considering that project at the seminary takes on a project like that, the investment is huge on their part. Now, granted, the return in the long run is going to be significant for them too, but the return to the community is also big. And when they look at you know, the cost and looking at a funding package, I mean, they're looking at all kinds of incentives. They'd be looking at federal historic tax credits, and anything else that they can get to help make the numbers work. And a tax incentive such as 79E in a property like that isn't going to be a huge number in all likelihood, but it might be just enough. Might be just enough to sweeten the deal that a reputable developer like that would do it and would get it done.
So what do you want, a motion to?
No, it's too soon. We'll deal with that when we come
So
to,
when do you want us to remind you to put it on the warrant?
when Historic District comes forward, to do their budget. They can present it to the budget committee then, I would think. And then for, when we start looking at the warrant articles, you know, I think maybe you could craft something to put forward to the,
Well, can't you, take a vote to support proposing a 79E warrant article? Or to the 2020 warrant?
We've already had one other one that we've supported.
we haven't really done anything yet. It was
It
still
goes-
early, but I mean,
One for us.
What?
You weren't at the meeting. We did do one that the selectmen agreed to put in. That was for the repairs at the Nichols Museum building. This was at the last meeting that we were at. We had come forth saying, you know, these type of things, you know, if a selectman does it and all the selectmen were in agreement that it needed to be done, would be going forth as a selectmen's warrant article. So we did that like a couple of weeks ago, just for your knowledge. You know, we would like to see that, the problem with us is we can't necessarily wait to the end, when the selectmen start putting in their warrant articles, because we have to go and get, if it's a petition, we want to show a lot of support, so we usually start in like November, if we know, to get signatures. And so that's why we could be happy to come back in November, if you'd like, or you could take it, you know.
Yeah, I would say, I'll be honest, I'm not ready to take a vote right now or ask my fellow board
Right.
members. You just came, brought your presentation. I would think, you know, when do you want to know by? You want to give us a meeting date in November?
That would be great, whichever, what's good for you. I mean, we could come the second, I don't have a calendar in front of me, I'm sorry.
I would say,
Gals could put a motion.
how about November 18th?
November 18th.
Well, it would be good to do it before that, Debbie, because if I remember correctly, and Glenn, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the opening, the window for citizens petitions is between mid-November and mid-December, is that right?
Want to put it in?
And if that's the case, we want to know pretty soon, because we need to start getting.
November 4th then's the next one.
I can tell you that I'm in favor of it. I think
I'm in favor of it.
that Mark may want to be here to vote on it, maybe not, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, I support it. I think the benefit to having this go forward, based upon some of the research I've done on that building down there, is truly a benefit to the town.
No question about
No
it.
question about it.
In the packet we had was the actual contract, the RSA itself, and I pulled that out to read it, and I haven't, to tell you the truth, have a chance to read the whole thing. What you're presenting is different than was presented before. We're talking the commercial aspect of it, and we can obviously see that, because the last time we were looking at possibly the town taking over the land over the seminary, and that's not gonna happen. And so it changed, and it's all for the
I
better.
don't know what would have happened because we were not able to negotiate a deal with the school. So
Yeah.
to say that you were gonna take over the property is not a fair assessment.
Well, I would say take over the property, but we're looking to partner with it too.
Correct, but it would have still had to come to the voters. It would not have been, it would not have been a selectman's decision to yea or nay.
I guess what I'm trying to say is the tax incentive purpose for commercialization wasn't, we didn't realize that at the time. So now you can see how it would be an asset to the town to do this.
All right, I won't say anything else.
So, just so that you know that, you know, in the packages that we gave you, we also gave you really good ideas on what the covenants, which is really probably the thing that you're most interested in.
Yeah.
The covenants and also the application that would go on. We did do the booklet, which is this that you have, that should be able to give our interpretation and the RSA. So as you have questions, you know, as you're looking through it, we really believe that the description is there. Happy to answer any other questions, Kevin, or anyone else might have on the way.
I think it would be good for you to come in and give like a 15-minute presentation, because I think there was some confusion last year on how it would affect historical homes in the center of town, those types of things. And so I think maybe a quick presentation on how this will affect other homes within Historic District 1.
Okay.
That may be good, because I think there was some confusion, wasn't there, last time, as to what this would do for,
I don't think so.
Well, there was-
I think it was not endorsed by the selectmen.
I'm sorry?
I think the only issue was that it wasn't endorsed by the selectmen.
Okay.
And people said, well, gee, what does that mean if they're not supporting it? That's,
Well, I think there were questions about it beyond just our support. People didn't understand it, and
Yeah.
Yeah, and
That-
just
which is why a second vote is always
I
important.
agree, but it wasn't just us poo-pooing
Yeah.
the party. I mean, there was, last-minute information isn't great information, and people didn't feel that they fully understood what was being presented to them, and that was a lot of what I heard back from people.
And I'm hoping what we have, we can do that for sure. But what you have, that covenant, is probably the document you want to look at the most, and that really shows you a lot of your protection. There's very little that you can do unless you are, what are the terms that they use? You intentionally do it because of a personal issue or, you know, with the individual.
Which we've been accused of.
Yeah, right. So, but, you know, so that would be what, we'll come back November 4th, and if you want some information, other questions, because you have some questions about what it would do to the regular taxpayer's home, you know, I think the big question that we had was the split out between, you put the money in, they're going to do the outside of the house for $100,000. They're going to do in their kitchen, you know, we believe that that's separated out, but if you want us to, like, get some more detail on that, that's for sure.
I knew there was some confusion when we spoke about that.
That was the big question. You know, why should someone get a tax incentive for fixing the inside of their house when it's only the facade? That,
And frankly,
I think that's in there.
frankly, that kind of thing gets discussed when someone makes an application to the select board, and then the select board reviews the application and reviews the public benefit components. And you have to determine that there's a public benefit. And if someone's just doing some interior work to the home for their own use, you know, you might find that doesn't qualify as public benefit. And it's completely at your discretion to either approve or deny that application based on those public benefit criteria, which are outlined on, I didn't number the slides, oh my God. Anyway.
It's okay.
It's in there. It's in there. It has to enhance the economic, it can be any one of these things or multiples of these things. It can enhance the economic vitality of the downtown area, can improve a culturally or historically important structure, can promote downtown development, can encourage preservation and reuse of existing building stock, or it can increase housing opportunities in the downtown. You know, for someone who's doing some, for lack of a better term, minor upgrades to the interior of their home to make it more comfortable for them, frankly, doesn't rise to the level of public benefit. It's their personal benefit, it's not public benefit. And that's where the select board is looking at an application and making a discretionary decision about, does this fit the purpose of RSA 79?
And what portion of their whole renovation does. You know, I mean, it's a 10,000 on the outside, maybe you qualify that. The inside there would be, unless it was something like a bed and breakfast, that might be something you would consider the interior to be important.
And just, if I may, something else before I forget that we've discussed as a subcommittee is that we realize that if the town adopts this, that it's a significant item for the select board to handle. It's a complicated application that a homeowner or property owner would submit, and it's a fairly large thing for a select board to consider. And we would offer to and suggest that if this comes to pass, that you might want to think about forming an advisory group to help you when applications come in, and there could be a member on that advisory group from HDC and from Heritage Commission and maybe from planning as well, just to kind of help look at the details and help work through some of it as you're deliberating for your decisions.
Is that what other communities are doing now?
Some do. Yep. Depends on the size. I mean, sometimes a small community just doesn't have, you know, a lot of the internal workings to do this, and so they rely on folks to help the selectmen out. So,
Yeah.
yes.
Like, we don't have a town manager, that would be someone who might process these through. But, you know, we will put forth people to help in any way that you need to do this.
Sure.
November 4th work for you?
That works for me.
Seeing you here, I will point out, though, that there's a lecture series, Poor Houses and Town Farms, on November 2nd, Saturday here at Town Hall. Any information, contact Ernie Landry. I assume this is on the bulletin board and the town website. Has a nice picture of Rockingham County's poor house from the 1800s.
And in regards to that, would like to request the presenter, who is Steve Taylor, if we could videotape it. We have a volunteer to do the videotaping, but can we use the town equipment? Would that be, if he agrees?
I think we control,
Be Adam.
you can tape it, and
would
then
be
we
Adam.
could
Yeah.
play it after if you see Adam.
Okay.
We don't like to let people, if it's.
Well, he's the
She
one,
kept metal in there.
He's the one that.
he's the one,
Oh,
he's on our
like-
Heritage
okay.
Commission.
Then yes, I wouldn't have an issue with
All
that.
right, that, I don't know if he'll agree with it, but we wanted to make sure you were okay before we did. And the other, can I just do one other plug so that the townspeople know who are listening? Susan, I think we put this up on the PowerPoint and we'll put up the PowerPoint and the booklet that explains the RSA 79E. Also, if anyone wants to know where we're going, some of our roadmap, we're using the Envision Kingston 2 from 2016 as a guideline, but we also want an Envision from 1999, all on the website, so that the townspeople can take a look at what we're thinking about.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chairman, before you close this out, I just want to make sure that if any of the folks, if there's someone from HDC here, our town planner, Ernie Landry's out there as well. I don't know if they have any comments that they'd like
The
to make.
public comment will be coming, there's a section for that.
He wants to know if they want to comment
If they want to
on
talk.
this particular thing.
We can always have,
We'll be back.
Does anyone want to speak to it?
Since we're coming back, maybe we can put that as part of our,
within the 15.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I saw that letter. I don't know if I want to address that. We can wait for public. We have a 7:30 meeting with Bresnahan Storage. Don't be on public comment. Hello? Very good. Yourself? Wonderful. Right.
At least it's not raining tonight, huh?
Exactly. Everybody see that okay?
Yeah.
There's some plans for it, you just pass those out real quick.
Thank you, sir.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, get the low seat.
Okay, go ahead.
Yep, good evening. Charlie Zilch from SEC and Associates, for the record. Again, with Attorney Joe McKittrick and Joe Bresnahan on behalf of Joe's self-storage facility currently under construction over at 7 Marshall Road. We were here a few months ago to discuss the project. Since the site walk and that subsequent meeting, Joe and I have had kind of a chance to review the impact from the overcut of the existing tree stand and kind of come up with a plan for your consideration for tonight. It's the plan that you have with you. One item that we never discussed at the last meeting is the amount of trees that Joe's obligated to plant here on site per the site plan. So I just kind of wanted to highlight that a little bit on the plan so you can get a better sense of what's going to happen here. Just kind of, if you want, I just kind of run through this section just one by one, kind of show what's going on. I'll just kind of point to it here. But for the section along 125, directly in front of where the current buildings are being constructed, you have a section, well, you know there's an existing, kind of a single line tree stand here
Charlie, can you
now.
pull that microphone over towards you, that one,
Sure.
or one or
This
the other?
This one work?
Just so people can hear you in the audience.
Does that work?
Yep.
Okay. So you have basically existing tree stand along the highway. They did cut some of that back because of the wire line, but there still is tree stand there. So just behind that, within our property, right along the property line, you can see there's a number of trees that are being planted, and Joe's already in the process. I don't know if he planted them all yet. All done. They're all done. So he planted basically 9 to 10 foot tall oaks and maples all along there. Okay, and then the other trees that were to be planted per the site plan surround not only the parking area, some of the access way, the proposed office building. So you can see there's a number of trees here, all these large trees all the way around. So Joe's planted all of those. I think in total comes out to be somewhere between 37 to 40 trees.
Yeah, 37.
37 trees, okay. So those are the trees that he's obligated to plant just for this phase here, for the southerly phase. The other thing that we talked about when we had our site walk, and it was also shown on the plan, was a row of arborvitae to protect this buffer over here, to enhance the buffer actually. As you know, there's some encroachments from the neighbors on this southerly side of the project. So we're gonna do whatever we could in and around that 50-foot buffer to enhance that. One of the suggestions we had at the site walk, and Joe's kind of taken upon himself to go with it, it's a great suggestion, was to basically carry it from this point, which is about the point where the site plan showed it going to, and to add a berm around here, and then run additional arborvitae all around on the top of the berm for a very effective buffer for all the dwellings over here on the 107 end. So in that instance, I think he's planted about 40 on the money, 40 arborvitae over here. So now we're up to about 70 some odd trees he's planted thus far. So for the rest of it, as you know, there's a number of areas that were overcut. You've got an area here next to a wetland buffer, and then here, adjacent to wetland buffers near the northerly edge of the buildings, and then the large overcut back here, and then lastly this one here. So there's basically 4 areas of concern. So Joe and I looked at this, we looked at the topography, we looked at what was exposed, what the intent of the buffer is, what we're trying to protect, and we kind of came up with this, and like I said, this is kind of what we're hoping for your consideration tonight, to open up a dialogue, is that when you come back here, again, there's another encroachment from the westerly abutter, the farm over here, and so there was an incursion into that buffer with the cutting, and so what we're looking to do is basically bring the trees in as close as possible and use evergreens all along here in this buffer to enhance that and to bring it back, to kind of cut, you know, any visual sight off from them looking into the site and vice versa. Okay. This helps? All right, so that was the other area of concern. And then, as you know from the site walk, whoever's been out here, when you come out to this northerly entrance, this basically dips down pretty substantially down by this wetland. So doing any plantings right here really effectively doesn't do anything. So what we thought is right along here is to plant, again, a mix of evergreens right up the highway side, about the same elevation of the highways for the most effective buffer. So after considering that, I mean, it's a pretty generous number of trees that Joe's putting in, and I think by proposing this and what he's already in the process of doing, I think it effectively creates the buffers, which is the most important thing, obviously. So in consideration of the areas that he overcut, so what do you do about that? Well, we considered, what if you go in there and you try to do a planting based on square footage? Well, the problem is you're getting back in there and you're disturbing all that area again. And right now, Joe's entire layout, his whole site is laid out, it's currently under construction. There's going to be no other further incursions to any of those areas whatsoever. So they've had a full season to somewhat recuperate from the overcut, and they're already kind of into what I consider like a shrub condition. And they've made kind of a diverse habitat out here. I mean, Joe went out back here a couple of times. He's upset a couple of families of deer that have moved into the area. He's got hawks and eagles that have moved in that are taking advantage of the open space. So he's kind of created a little bit of diversity. I mean, there is a plus to everything as far as I'm concerned, but that's the plus there. The other thing too is Joe's buildings. They're all colored forest green and tans. So there's nothing really obtrusive there as well. I thought that was just worthy of mentioning. So what I'd like to do is Joe is not going to build this year, this section up here. All he's going to do is basically regrade it and then stabilize it, seed it, and just let it grow. And so he's not even affecting this area. This will just be reseeded, like I said, and stabilized. So it's this area here, and I think with this plan and what we're proposing is a pretty effective buffer. Your thoughts?
My first thought is you said we didn't say anything about the number of trees in the first meeting. And we did say that there's a whole section about a buffer in our ordinances and what a buffer should be. And that we expected you to go beyond that height-wise. So I don't know if you referred to any of that. In fact, I think planning board rep actually talked about it that night. About the amount of trees that are supposed to be planted to maintain a buffer and to, set up a buffer. We have an ordinance for that.
Right, and so to follow that ordinance exactly,
Yeah.
you're talking about the entire area that was cut?
Well,
Or
the
just
areas
buffer
that you
areas?
needed to put the buffer back in.
Well, I thought we were looking for a little bit of diversity. I mean, with the buffer ordinance, it calls for a selection of mixed tree types. And I think what we're trying to do is be more selective, not follow the ordinance as much as to create more of an effective buffer. We're trying to create evergreen areas where there's exposure to the neighbors, and then use more of a seasonal tree along the roadway and around the parking areas.
So, in the middle of it, this little
Yes,
triangular piece up on the top part.
Yep.
That was all overcut,
correct.
correct? Okay. And what you're saying is, you like the natural habitat now, you're only gonna put those trees along the fence line there?
Yeah.
That's it?
Yeah, well, also to consider this too is when this grows back, you're gonna have more than just a 50-foot buffer. You're gonna have a buffer from the back of the buildings of about 400 feet. So you've already got existing trees along here, and then coupled with the 50-foot buffer here that we're gonna replant. And then when this comes back within a couple of years, you're gonna have an incredible buffer. You won't be able to see the buildings from the neighbor at that point.
So I should probably point out that the buffer that you're referring to, the ordinance, is if you're establishing a buffer, not if you cut down trees that were supposed to be remaining on the
Right.
property.
Right, I understand that.
That ordinance is meant if you are opening a place up and you're providing screening to an abutting neighbor. That's what that is based on. That's not what happened here.
Right.
And it wasn't evergreen trees that were taken down. It was 100-year-old oak trees and maple trees
Right.
that were taken down. And if I'm reading this right, you're gonna put in 18 white pine spruce mix?
In that area in the back, yes.
Well, this says 12, and then there's 6 going in front here.
Okay, correct. In addition to the 40 arborvitae and the close to 40 hardwoods as well.
I mean, that doesn't even come close to cutting it as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
Yes, in 6 years, there might be some great screening there, and that would be great, but it's an eyesore now. It's beyond what was agreed to in the site plan now. And 6 years from now doesn't change our current state of affairs. When we went out there, I was trying to be, given the circumstances and everything like that, I thought we could come to some kind of understanding, but, this doesn't even meet like the buffer requirements for establishing a buffer to a neighbor, from what I'm reading and what I'm seeing this as.
If I could just address this issue of the buffering back. A buffer, as I understand it, is to protect the neighbors from viewing into the property. As Charlie had mentioned before, these neighbors have clear cut not just to the property line, but over the property line. Actually, one of their buildings is on the Bresnahan property. We're trying to be good neighbors. We don't want to sue people. We don't want to say, you cut the trees, you put them back. What we're trying to do is say, okay, a mistake was made when these trees were cut. They weren't cut, at least not deliberately, by Mr. Bresnahan. What we're trying to do is get a compromise so that you get the buffer, the things grow back, and we don't displace or cause hardship to the neighbors who are already there and who in essence clear cut right onto our property.
I mean, that was brought up in the site plan review, that you had some encroachments from your neighbors, and that was discussed at length, as I recall. And, we're talking about two different things here. We're talking about the neighbors having screening and a buffer, and then we're talking about you've taken down a forest and we're gonna put back 18 trees and call it good. And it's, I just don't think it cuts it.
Well, again, I'd like to point out that as Charlie said, there is a buffer, in essence, from the back of those buildings right to the property line is total buffer. None of that is used, none of it has a roadway into it, if I'm correct.
Right.
No pathways. Once the construction is done, from the back of the buildings along that line, you can see at the back, right to the line, that's 400-plus feet.
About 400 feet, yeah.
Certainly, that is going to create more, and I understand what happened, and I'm not trying to excuse that, but that 400 feet is going to create far more of a buffer than just the minimum requirements. We can't replace 100-year-old trees.
I got that. We did have that conversation.
Yeah.
But I thought we were gonna do more than 18 trees, and I thought we talked about 6 foot, 10 foot, maybe some 12-foot trees. It was gonna be a mix, is what I remember the conversation, and I didn't go to when you did the site walk. I did go there Sunday and do a quick walk through. There's a lot of stumps down there. I was kind of amazed that, because your landscape, it looks like it's doing a great job right along driving from 125. These varieties over here were they're all over the place.
From the rain last, what, Thursday?
I don't know. I just looked at Sunday and it kind of all over the place there.
It was just done Wednesday and all that rain came Thursday.
Okay.
Well, look, we're not in a position of, nor would we ever be saying to the board, take it or leave it. I mean, that's not what the situation is here. What we said is, here's a presentation that we think works from our standpoint and works in reality. We're certainly open to further compromises to see what we can do to make this work for everybody.
I mean, as I recall, when we had the site walk, there was at least discussion of buffering around the cut area. You know, where there is supposed to be trees that were taken down, we were gonna have 2 to 3 rows of replaced trees in that area. And I wasn't, you know, and the road agent was there, who was also the tree warden. You know, we were trying to work with you guys, obviously, you know, hundreds and hundreds of trees having to go in there, and there is gonna be some natural replication of it, but we also have to maintain, you know, somewhat of a look that the town had before, or that this property had before, and the site plan was based around those trees being there. And you know, and I'm not saying it's take it or leave it, but I feel this falls really short of what we discussed. I mean, over in this possible additional snow storage area, that was an area that was cut that wasn't supposed to be, and there's nothing gonna be planted up there. And
Where was that one?
up in phase 3 on the top there towards Kellogg America there.
Yeah. Well, it seems to me to make more practical sense to get the first part done right and everybody in agreement before we charge ahead into the second part, or I guess section 3, technically. Again, we're open to some direction. We're just trying to make a bad situation better.
Why wouldn't you go along you get the backside of it? Why would you plant along the edge above the berm, and plant along there? And then at least, then let in between natural selection take its course.
Shelley, you know where they're talking?
You're suggesting running a row along here on the backside of this?
No, going up along where, you know, almost like, yep, that way. Why wouldn't you be running trees down and then follow the red line going all the way down? Where was the...
From there, following back to
Okay, 'cause
yourself.
this is, right now, that's the edge of the remaining tree line right there.
Yep, so why would you plant in there, along that edge?
All right, just along that red line?
At the very least, and then...
Well, no, because so this area all still has trees. All this is
Oh, it
still
does,
wooded.
okay.
It's these white areas here are the ones that do
it was-
not have.
Then I'm looking at the wrong thing. I didn't go over this far deep.
Yeah, so this goes down into the vernal pool. It's kind of a
Okay.
cut there. I mean, there are trees in there.
The question I had, and I wasn't involved in this from the beginning, so I may misunderstood, but I understood it at some point in that white triangle, they were told to plant saplings, if that's the right term, and cover it with wood chip.
That was in the two
Yeah,
white
that was in
sections.
this area here.
That whole section here. Which was done.
Right, the wood chips were in place, and you
Yeah,
did a
some
good
of the
job
wood
on that.
chips, I
The
didn't see
town
beyond.
engineer commended your guy for doing that.
So that spot's not an issue, I guess. Am I right?
Well,
I'm asking, I'm just trying to get things clarified.
there were supposed to be trees left in that area when that was disturbed.
And they weren't, and then, as I understood it, somebody from the town said, plant these saplings and put wood chips around them, and they'll start to grow.
I think that was part of the site plan originally, if there was an overcut or
That was on a Wednesday. Dennis came out on a Wednesday. I had a conversation with the excavator. On Thursday, he did everything Dennis wanted. He planted and wood chipped those two bottom triangles. Came back Friday and said, I didn't know anything about it. They didn't even tell me until it was all done. And then he told Mike, he said, that's wonderful. Then Mike told me Friday afternoon when I was on my way by, he said, we had a little problem here. He said, but Dennis came, everything's good. And then 2 months later, right here, now it's not good. In the meantime, send me the bill and I pay it, and,
Yeah, I mean,
are those two areas an issue now? I mean, with you? With the board?
well, what we want to see is where the cut area was, we want trees there. Not 6 years from now, but trees now. And so,
I guess that's.
and again, this was like, what was this, a month ago? We went and looked at this, so I'm trying to picture what I'm looking at here, but.
That's a concern. I mean, if we have at one point somebody says, do this, and we do it, I don't want to have to come back and revisit it. I mean, I'm assuming that when someone,
I thought we were at a point the last time when you were here, you said you were going to come to, you needed 2 weeks and you would put forward a plan to us. And there was a site walk where you talked about what could be and what you would do, and then the idea was you were gonna come back and say, here's the plan, this is what we're going to do. That was my recollection.
I mean, there was one, it had to be delayed for 1 week because
Yep.
I was out of town. I
No,
wasn't available.
but the point is, we didn't think any plantings were gonna happen until you came in here.
Oh yeah, this was done way before the meeting. Yeah,
Oh, before the
these two
first
areas,
meeting.
these were done back in early July.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
Dennis visited it.
Th- This is what we're talking about. Dennis said was okay with the wood chips. This is all the issue that we have is in this white part, right?
Well, Charlie, maybe you can point that out on yours.
50 feet, bring that out, doubling that up.
Where do we start on the property line that I own?
If, the trees that have indicated that we put on the back line there, if we added a third row to that, would that start to get to where we need to be?
Well, I think if we're doing that on everywhere there was supposed to be the cut line, that starts getting us there, and then we can make the case for, the native vegetation coming up between that, is what we discussed at the site walk. So, and what I said at the time is, I'm not trying to make you plant 400 trees in this area, because it doesn't make sense, but we still have to replace what was taken away.
Because that area, from the sidewalk is full of evergreen, 20 to 30 inches tall right now. Would you agree with that?
No. When we walked out there, they were like this tall.
20 to 30 inches tall.
That's 20. I'll give you 20.
So I had a guy, Mike Dushman from Mayor Tree come out, okay? And he's got all those degrees, everything from arboritis all around. He has them all measured at 18 inches to 30 inches in height, that whole area. With the right sun and the right vegetation, which you have now because the sun can get in there, you'll gain 16 to 24 inches a year of a growth season on that field. All evergreens that are small to 20 to 30 inches that have been born there will have a 90% chance of survival rate with the right vegetation and right sun. Anything you planted in a 6 feet, you'll be lucky to get half of them to take in a aquifer area full of sand. The smaller ones absolutely will take off and go, he told me. Subject area, high-density vegetations of evergreens and the scrub helps all the evergreens because they track the water and feeds them. Told me. I don't know anything about trees, but this is what I got from him on that area there. I mean, there's a guy telling me they're all 18 to 30 inches in height, and I'll get 16 to 24 inches per season, which is May and June and September and October. Those are your best growing areas, he told me.
Listen, I'm not an arborist. I'm
I
not gonna sit here and argue with you guys, you know, I mean, the tree warden was out there and our town engineer were out there, and that's what we discussed when we were on site. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I'm the subject matter expert. I know what was discussed out there, and in my opinion, this is very far short of where we need to be.
I guess then coming straight down towards 125 from that back row, why would you plant trees there at least coming down?
Where's that?
So, Kevin, you're suggesting this area?
Yeah, like straight down at least that way. I mean, you're trying to fill in that area. You know, I mean, I get it. I don't even know how many trees were there, but let's say for sake of argument, there was 100 trees in all these areas. Am I to believe that you're saying by planting 18 trees that will cover it?
Well,
With the saplings they'll grow double the size over the next 6
Well, in
years.
consideration of the 70 that he's already planted or in the process of planting, that's part of the site plan. So we're getting close to 100 trees that he's planting here, okay? But I understand where you're coming from.
I don't think the
There's
ornamental
room
ones
for
in
more.
front that were gonna be there anyway really count, but.
Right, there's room for more, okay? And I think Joe's amenable to doing that.
If you're talking about that line straight down, as a suggestion, I know, but would we willing to entertain that? Put trees in there?
I guess I'm gonna take what you said, there's room for more versus the minimum that you're trying to get by. You know, we're trying to build the forest without building a forest. I get it, I'll defer to Phil, I'm not an arborist either. But I think it's a stretch to say, you know, put some white pine out there.
And I've seen enough clear cuts to know it looks like crap for 4 to 10 years before it's even remotely something people want to look at. And unfortunately, that's the intangible thing that we can't really capture here, that people are very upset on how this was cut. They're upset how this was handled. And, you know, I mean, there were people who came here for your site plan, your site plan review, who were concerned about changing the look of that side of town. And rightfully so, they're upset because they came and spoke their mind, and now it's, well.
But if that right side that hasn't been developed yet wasn't cut, the right side where shows all the buildings that has already been cut, I don't think would be here today. I understand the back's been clear cut, but that's all green, that's all scrub, that's all growing. The only thing that's not growing is where phase 3 is going. It's a sand pit. It's all sand. I mean,
But-
if that wasn't cut, I don't think you'd have, you know.
If the consensus of the board is that the board would like us to put trees down that line, from the back line to 125.
I don't want to tell you exactly where to put it. I want where it's going to grow, where it's going to look like you're making a little more of a attempt than 12 trees. Because that's what I thought this was all about. We're trying to be within the planting season. You know, we're trying to do all that. And that's what, again, you guys went, you met, and I thought you were coming back with a plan, and we're going to look at some nice landscaping and say, look, oh, this is beautiful, and everything was going to be good. But instead, we got really nothing. It was I just heard your own engineer say, is there more room for trees? Yeah, sure.
Well, we don't want to go ahead and do something that the board ultimately is going to say, well, that's nice, but it's not reaching our objective. If putting trees along that line, and I'm not asking for a final decision, but would help the board to see this project in a more favorable light, that's what we're willing to.
I want some arborists to tell me what we could do.
For one thing, I'd like to have our town engineer here while we discuss this and finalize this, but, I mean, again, I have to go back to the site walk. What we discussed is where the edge of cut was supposed to be, you know, we need to reestablish that tree line.
Can we do another site walk?
Yeah, that's what I would like to do. I'd like to see what it actually looks like instead of.
Because I looked at the wrong thing. I mean, I saw the wood chips,
I see
but I
it
didn't see,
driving
you know.
by, and that's all,
I think
all
that's
I
a good
see.
move. Let's go out and do a sidewalk.
Can we do it on a Saturday and Sunday and not this Saturday?
Not this Saturday?
I'm working.
seen it, whatever you guys wanna do.
Pick a date.
Yeah.
What Saturday?
Week from Saturday?
What's the date?
You said not the 26th. What about Sunday, the 27th?
Sure.
Sunday the 27th, what time?
8 o'clock?
08.
And now that I know what it's like, I'm not gonna wear my dress shoes
Oh,
this
come on.
time.
That was the highlight of the trip.
I'm sure they were.
At 8 o'clock? What was the time on that?
8 o'clock.
That's so you can go to work.
I've already been up for 3 hours at
I
that
know,
point.
me too, but it's pretty cold at 8 o'clock. We can wait another hour or two, it'll be a lot warmer. I don't care, I'll go at 4:30, bring the spotlights.
I'll pick you up at 3.
4:30 would be good.
Will breakfast be served?
How about 3?
Will breakfast be served, or, let's see, all right, 8 o'clock. We're gonna have Dennis there?
Yes.
If you can.
Great.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you for the
time.
consideration.
All right, thank you.
Kevin, I think Anne Marie Roth might be here. I had an email saying she was gonna come after all, so
Okay.
if you would ask, I'm not sure.
Yeah, we'll get to it. All right, that's it. All right. All right. So, there is no vintage bazaar that's offered, so let's go to Anne Marie. She's over here.
Find it, you put everything back, so.
Marlene. Marlene and Ann.
Hi, hi.
Hello again.
Hello, hello.
You're just volunteering for everything.
I know, I don't know what's wrong with me.
Just got your message. I'm sorry, didn't realize you were waiting.
Oh, that's okay.
There we go. So let's see. And you are with
Marlene.
Arlene. Are you here for the same thing?
Yes.
Okay. So Anne Marie, you're looking to get on Kingston Days, and Marlene Fenton, you are looking to get on Kingston Days as well.
Yes.
Okay, well, I happen to have 2 appointment sheets here. So I know, Anne, you were over here before for the Budget Committee,
Yes.
and now you're looking to go on the Kingston Days. Care to share anything with us about that?
It seems like there's a lot of people who's leaving and they need help, so I volunteered.
Very good.
Yep.
Appreciate the commitment. Anyone have any questions for Anne Marie?
None. She's a good worker.
It's a thankless job. It truly is, but it's a lot of work behind the scenes, and that would be good. And Marlene,
Hi.
how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good. So, did you come here of your own free will, or did someone drag you here?
No, I've volunteered for a couple of years, so I have a little bit of an understanding as to what's needed, and I thought
Okay.
it's great to be full-time help.
So what did you do before for Kingston Days?
Yes.
No, what did you do when you were helping with Kingston Days?
Oh, in the tent, collecting for the raffles.
So you volunteered, but you never actually been on the planning end of it
No.
type thing?
I haven't.
Gotcha.
Got some visions and grand ideas?
No.
How's
We have a
Hamilton?
few, we have a few.
How's Hamilton? How's Hamilton?
He's doing well. He
Good.
went skydiving today.
Good.
Really nice. Anyone else have any questions? No. Okay, so with
I
that,
make a motion to accept both nominees for the Kingston Days Committee.
Second.
any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Nick's father,
Um,
Wilson. Okay, I didn't remember.
Tammy Bakey is gone now, but we'll do is, we will leave this for her, so sometime when you get a chance, when the town clerk is there, either her or Deputy Clerk Hawley, you can, see them, get sworn in, and then we'll get that to the chair of the board. I sincerely appreciate you stepping up and volunteering.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I think she's
All right.
Bye, ladies.
Thank you.
Take care.
Have a good night.
You too.
Public comment. It seems like the public's diminishing on us. Does anyone have anything for public comment? Are you here for anything? We don't have anything, you're on the agenda for anything. Did you want to
Yeah.
speak, or did you want to do something non-public or something?
I'm going out to do a site walk with them.
Okay.
That's what we talked about.
Yeah, so we
earlier.
talked about that. Is there anything else you want to bring forward? Okay. At the old business, we have Mass Mechanical. We have a contract here for that. By the way, if you want to sign that, summary.
Phil, you weren't here, but what we're doing is we're gonna do half the check and give it to Don, and he's gonna deliver it the day they show up for the 50% deposit. Instead of mailing it in advance.
Here it is.
And I think the start date's next Monday. I don't have on my phone with that schedule.
What site walk are we going on? Just out of curiosity? What site walk are we going on? Yeah, I know you're pointing to them, but who are they?
No, I'm talking about Mass.
No, I know, but the people who were just here.
Oh, the shed.
Briggs is going
Oh,
to go.
you weren't up here.
You weren't up here.
Wadley Point.
Okay.
The letter we got.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so we got it was recommended that we contract with Mass Mechanical for the, HVAC system over at the police department. That came in at $41,500.
We actually did a motion last time to accept it.
It was, okay, so it's authorized to sign it? Phil, if you want to sign that PO, that's in that. Do you want to do,
Which part of
this is for the, bond, the Bowen Construction.
It's a legal issue I'd like to discuss.
So you want to wait for that? Okay. Where are my motions here? Municipal aid, actually. It was the,
How is it aid if they're giving you your own money back?
no, good question, but they tend to taketh and keepeth. But we do have to decide what we want to do with it as far as we will be receiving this money. So do we want to just do it to offset taxes?
I would say yes.
Okay. So
Is
we,
that a motion? I will second that motion.
okay. So all in favor of that? Or actually, further discussion on it?
No.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous.
What's the amount?
$56,654.36.
So what will that mean, like a $10 decrease?
Well, when we get done with the once the budgeting process is done, there's the state threshold that we have to leave in the coffers, so we can apply that to, so yeah, probably $10, maybe 13.
Okay. Sanborn Head. We met last week, and town attorney recommended we work with a consultant to help us with the PFAS.
Can I see the agreement, please?
Yeah. Actually, I believe there's a copy in your folder.
Oh, there is? Sorry.
Yeah. And he brought forward the name of Sanborn Head Associates, Chip Crissetti, and they put forward a contract for us to initial start out with $5,000. It's, I don't know if you had a chance to see, there's a fee structure in there. So I'd entertain a motion to sign the contract. Sanborn Head?
So move.
There's a motion there. If someone wants to make that.
Second. He first, me second.
So a motion to authorize the vice chair to sign an agreement with Sanborn Head and Associates for technical consulting services with an initial budget amount of $5,000 to be invoiced on a time material basis. Budget extension will require board approval. Any further discussion on that? All in favor?
Hang on.
Oh, sorry.
What is our cap on this before we go barreling into this?
So I think based upon the latest litigation, and I don't think we should probably discuss that as a legal matter, but there is ongoing legal litigation now.
Yep.
And I think that's something that everyone's looking at, as well as what we spoke about earlier, unfunded mandates by the state. So I would suggest we at least have that discussion. That's a good discussion to have. We don't want this to run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
No, I think the motion speaks that this is only for the $5,000.
Okay.
Then anything else needs board approval.
And that's why I want to start this, because this could easily spiral out of control and get very expensive.
It can.
Either way could.
So I would
I think it's definitely worthwhile to retain them. I think
Yeah.
from everything I'm reading, they're very well regarded in the field, but I think the $5,000 before we go any further and we see how quick that gets burned up, because that,
Yep.
I personally, I didn't see the $1,500 very well spent, in the initial consultation with them. I thought, for what we got out of that. So and obviously they're just walking into it, and, it's not a judgment against them. I want to make sure that we're tracking this, so.
Yeah.
As long as it's just the 5,000, I would be on board.
I think we do have to have more of a conversation after, but right now I'd like to go forward with this, the motion. So any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous.
Waste management thing is a legal issue as well.
Yeah. All right, so there is, the next issue that was brought forward by the state. Do we have a letter to read off if we're going to provide?
You had it last time. I'm sorry, I don't know that I've got it in here. I can go get it. Did you
Which
bring it up
letter?
last time?
As far as doing, if we're gonna provide bottled water, I thought we were gonna read a disclaimer.
That's something we need to do some work on before we do it, right? Isn't that, we needed to review it?
Yeah, I mean, the letter, you mean the October 4th letter from?
Yes, all right, well, let's go back. All right, so speaking with our now contracted company,
Yeah,
in discussion with some of the cattlemen, they've already had a conversation with the state.
right.
The state did put a demand that the letter that we got dated October 4th, we were supposed to immediately provide water.
That's the letter she has that we need to look at.
Correct. But what I would say is, what Sanborn Head is recommending is that we do provide the water.
With a liability letter.
Correct.
Which
So-
she has.
Which we're just supposed to read, that by providing this water, we take no responsibility. So, do we
That's the
add
one-
that?
That's the one we have to review the verbiage of it, right?
Yeah, oh, you want something that we've written up for?
Right.
I don't have something from Sanborn at this point.
No, we have generated that letter, right? The one that we.
Yeah, we're going to,
And so we're gonna look at that and talk about that letter to make sure that's what we actually want.
So,
the only thing I've done is some.
but I was under the impression we were going to be contracting for bottled water right now.
That's correct.
Yes. So, but before we start handing out water,
That's correct.
we're gonna have a statement for tonight that just stated that we don't take any liability.
That's correct, and that's the letter we need to review.
Right, I tried to
So
put
where is
in.
that letter?
Well, I didn't know I was supposed to generate a letter saying that. I've got a motion that would cover that,
It is there? Okay.
and we have to put it in the letter that comes from Stantec.
Right.
So since that company is not technically on board yet, I don't have that information from them.
Okay, all right, so let's go with, if you wanna make that motion then. Or someone wants to make the motion.
Well, I think we need to review that to make sure it's gonna meet what we're looking for it to do before
Do
we.
you wanna review it in non-public and then make the motion
Correct.
when you come out?
Until we get the letter, right?
No, the state, I will tell you right now, based on talking with Sanborn, had the quick conversation I
Water
had.
needs to go out.
The water needs to go out.
So I would make a motion that we go into non-public to talk about a legal matter, meaning this letter.
Because that is, yeah.
All right, we're gonna wait on that. The MS1 we signed, and Tito Masonry was signed.
Yep.
There was the environmental insurance cost recovery agreement. What's that?
That was for the fire station, right?
Where are we?
The,
That's the
Einstein.
information from Cindy. She got in touch with this company that will pursue reimbursement for environmental costs through old insurance companies that you've had in the past. They can go back.
They can chase back.
So this company will do that research for us on a contingency basis. They'll take 35% of whatever they recover if it comes to that.
so there's no cost to the town
No
to enter
cost.
an agreement with
No
them?
cost, so, and I did call the person he put as a contact, was somebody from Florida, and they had nothing but great things to say about the company.
I think that should be part of the discussion with that letter.
Okay. So wait on those two. So we're waiting on Bowen, we're waiting on the E&M and the other motion. Let's see. Evaluation. Committee liaison reports?
Nothing on my end.
I don't have it with me. Nothing major.
Okay. Public comment, seeing none. Correspondence, I think we got everything in correspondence.
Covered everything on there at the beginning of the meeting,
Yeah, I think we got all that stuff.
so the rest is.
Oh, the workman's comp, we already did the workman's comp.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think that's it. So we're going to go into non-public for legal matters.
You wanna do the minutes?
Oh, the minutes we could do.
We need to talk about that before we sign it too.
All right, so, motion on the minutes? October 7th minutes?
Motion, we accept the minutes as printed for October 7th,
Both public and non-public?
both public and non-public.
Second.
Any discussion?
Good minutes.
All in favor? Aye. All right, we're gonna go under non-public for legal purposes, but I'm under the impression we're gonna come back out and have maybe a couple motions.
Sure.
After we come out. So that'll end the televised portion for this evening. I thank everyone and remind people that this Wednesday, 6:30 at the Town Hall, we will have Department of Environmental Services, Sanborn Head Art Consultant, as well as the health officer, and Stantec will be here to talk about PFAS and the contamination that's happening both in Kingston and the Atomic Gas site, and anyone can get their questions answered of what can cause it or any other questions you may have. I urge everyone that has any concerns to show up 6:30 this Wednesday, Town Hall here. Thank you.